don't come for you.
The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty is recorded live with the men and women of law enforcement. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Now, here's your host, Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Well, everybody, welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty. Along here with Cheif Hamby, and I'm going to say, Bill, it's been a while since we got to be here together.
It has been many miles that we've traveled and been sick and dental procedures and holidays, but it's good to be back.
Weather, and
good to be back. Good to be back.
It is good to be back. And listen, since we've been here, we've got a new sponsor.
I heard that.
I know, and I got to give you a little shout out to Harrison's. I'm going to tell you, from the job site to the rodeo to your backyard hammock, Harrison's has you covered. They're located down in Mooresville and obviously other places too, but they're the Southeast leader in Carhartt and area workwear, and nobody has more in stock, or at least work boots, and everything else is Harrison's. So if you get ready to go out and about, Western favorites like Cinch, Rock, and Roll Denim, and Wrangler, visit their Mooresville location or shop online at harrisonsusa.com. And I'm going to tell you, from personal experience, a great company to deal with. I buy a lot of my stuff, and so
their sales staff is awesome. Every time I've gone down there, and of course, you know my son, he has to buy big size shoes anyway. So he's got a pair of cinch boots there and loves them.
You know, it's funny how I've got one that's actually a 15-year-old that's wearing size 14 boots.
I've seen that young man.
Yes, and come Christmas list, there's nothing going online, and Harrison's is one of the ones that is top of his list. So Harrison's, we want to say thank you for sponsoring our show.
And they take care of our uniforms at the sheriff's office.
Yep, they
always do us a good job.
Do good business with us. So, well, today we're going to be talking about a little bit of everything. First of all, I want to hit one is everybody be safe. You know, obviously the weather's out, Bill. We don't have a lot here.
Yes, sir.
But tonight they've sent us some updates, and we do know it's supposed to get obviously below freeze and still going to a little snow. So if you're traveling, don't do it if you don't have to. But
that's right.
If you do, just be safe and
check on your neighbors.
That's right.
If you bring your animals in, bring them in, or make sure they have a nice warm place to stay tonight. I saw the weather up in western part of North Carolina tonight, and it's going to be like 12, 14 degrees with wind chill. It's going to be very cold. So remember those folks up there that lost everything during Helene. You know, right. I'll offer those prayers for those folks as well.
Well, I'm about ready to start being mowing grass, and
it's time.
I'm ready.
I'm ready for a little pollen.
But before we introduce our guests, I do want to say, remember, join us WSIC. You can tune us in at 100.7 FM. We're back on 105.9 FM. The WSIC app, Facebook, YouTube, X, LinkedIn, and I think we about got it covered everywhere. If you want to hear,
Joe's over there kind of grinning today. Joe, aren't we going to line up for some other new outlet?
I don't know. It's up to you guys, really. It's all about the content you want to put out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we better just move along.
We better move along.
Why don't you say what platform you want to broadcast on?
You was asking me the only platform left. Bill said that the only one I can.
Plead the fifth, boss.
Okay, we'll blame Dow, and he said, "Hey, what's that only thing?" And I said, "I don't think we need to. I'm not familiar, so
police only."
Police only. And obviously, you've heard before, we've had Dow Hawkins. Dow is a captain of our narcotics division, does a lot of our undercover, secret squirrel type stuff. Also oversees our interstate criminal enforcement team. Our ACE team has a hand in that. All of our asset forfeiture, which you hear a lot about, and that's where we basically take drug dealers' money, try to offset taxpayer dollars.
Department of Revenue.
I think we're the only ones that get the Department of Revenue to pay us.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing.
That's a good thing. I don't mind taking dope dealers' money, whether it's through tax money on dope, it's assets. I remember one time, Sheriff, I remember you talking about when you worked narcotics, and the tax man came and you went to a house and took a man's gold chain right off his neck.
I have seen them do it.
I remember back in the day, we'd take televisions, watches, radios, lawnmowers.
And we want to make sure that it's definitely unprofitable and it's not safe to deal drugs in Iredell County. We've said that. That's the reason we got our crime rates so low.
That's exactly right.
We've always used their proceeds and things like, off your budget, our lake patrol boat, which is over $400,000 to benefit our citizens. Drug dealer money. Our Bearcat. The Bearcat was all drug dealer money. K9s, drone.
Vests, computers, firearms, pens, pencils.
Anything that we can use to offset. And tell the commissioners, I said, budget time, we hate to, we hate turning a budget, and we're always trying to reduce costs. But anytime big things that we have to make sure our deputies are safe and the citizens, we always try to use dope dealer money, and I try to remind them that every chance I get.
And that is one of the things, Sheriff, and I'm glad Dow's with us today, that we are going to talk about as we get into the heart of the program, where, and you know, it's not politics, but it is political. The former administration, presidential administration, and his folks decided that there were certain limitations they were going to put on uses of forfeiture or asset forfeiture money on the federal level. Well, that affects budgets and things down the line for our agency and every other agency. So we'll address that and touch on that as we go along.
And I want to make sure you're right. You said something good there. It's not. It's sort of business. It does affect us what the administration comes out of the White House and the prior administration. So how it affects law enforcement, even from us dealing with asset forfeiture to cases to the immigration issue, even to the U.S. attorney.
Yep, absolutely.
So this is not. We're just going to tell facts. We're not. It is what it is. So Dow. And Bill, I'll let you. This is sort of your. You had some questions, but
Yeah.
you can start with DC. But while we got Dow, and obviously we would love to have call-ins, but right now I don't think the phone lines are working here. So Facebook, you can hit comments. Bill's watching the comments.
Yep,
If there's
absolutely.
anything you'd
If you have anything, comment
us
me.
to,
Comment on Facebook, and we'll get the question asked.
absolutely. So where do you want to start from?
Well, I know we got a lot ground to cover with things that you and I have been on, and I know Dow has a lot of stuff to talk about. So in the few minutes that we have before we go to our first break, I do want to let everybody and make everybody aware that our Citizens Academy is now up and running for registration. In the 2 days that we've been advertising it, we've had 6 sign-ups so far, so we would love to have our county residents come and join. It's going to be 6 weeks this time. We have 12 action-packed sections each night on Tuesday and Thursday, starting on March 4th. So it's coming up pretty quick. Get signed up. Things such as lake patrol. You're going to ride our lake boat. You're going to experience traffic stops. Our crime lab tour. You're going to get to work a crime scene with some of our detectives. Dow and his folks will have a narcotics presentation night. Our CERT team is going to have a demo, and I believe that coincides with the night that we go to the firing range. So let me just give you a rundown of how the nights will go. We have opening night, which you'll hear Sheriff Campbell and I and some other administrators talk about the office. The next night will be all about fraud, scams, different things. You can protect yourself, protect your neighbors. 2 nights of CSI. Then we're going to have simulators, the use of force simulator, and talk about the multiple programs that we do within the community, Church Shield, Project Lifesaver, RAD, things of that nature. Then we will go to the range, and they will actually get to fire some weapons.
Yeah, we can say all that gets listened. It's just going to be fun. It's going to
It's
be a good
fun,
time. It's a
fun,
blast.
fun.
Usually when they tell their neighbors halfway through, they say, hey, can they come in and finish the second half? Listen, if you're interested, like I say, we get to go right on the boat. We're going to do some range days, get to fire. It's not just watch us. It's actually get to utilize some
Absolutely.
some of the specialized tools that our tactical teams use. So
It's
I think
just a
gonna be
great
cool
way to
time.
be transparent, and I know that's one of the things that you've always said is it's the community's office. Let the community come in, let them see, let them talk to our deputies, let them kick our tires, let them see things that are going on. So when we come back from our break here in about 2 minutes, we're going to talk about Washington and the federal government and Homeland Security and all the other good things the sheriff's office is involved with.
We'll be back.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today to The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty here on WSIC. If you want to send us a comment, we've already got one from Miss Sissy Odalita. Hello, Miss Sissy. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Hope you're keeping warm and keeping everything safe on your end of Iredell County.
I hope you're keeping your other half straight. But anyway.
Well, I wasn't going to get into all that, but yeah, she got her hands full with that one. So, but if you do have comments for the show, I believe Joe said that our phones are still not working for phone calls, but you're more than welcome to hit us on Facebook, WSIC app. Somebody bumping you up right now?
You know, that's because I'm hitting too many buttons.
You got business with other sheriffs. I know they got some stuff going on in other counties today that's very important, and I appreciate the fact they reach out to you and that you answer and give them the equipment and personnel that they need. Mm-hmm. But for those of you that may be new to the show, Sheriff Campbell and I have been gone away from the show for the last several weeks, and 2 weeks ago we were in Washington, D.C. at the National Sheriff's Association Winter Conference. And you were running around like a chicken with your head cut off. For those of you that don't know, now let me. I made some notes, so you correct me if I'm wrong. You sit on the board of directors for the National Sheriff Association, mm-hmm. and the executive committee, mm-hmm. and you sit on the school safety committee, and the border committee, and the governmental affairs committee.
And they ain't give me a raise yet.
And you ain't got a raise yet.
No.
Now, for those of you that may not know, ladies and gentlemen. As far as I know, Sheriff, and I did some research while we were in Washington, and I still believe I am true when I say this, that you and Sheriff Wilmot from Yuma County, Arizona, are the only two sheriffs in the country, 2 out of about 3,000 sheriffs in the country, that sit on both the executive board and the board of directors for the National Sheriff Association.
And Eric Severson.
Okay,
which is another one. He's out of, I can't believe, Texas. Can't remember for sure. He's gonna get upset if I say the wrong state. But either way, yeah, but, I'm very lucky to get an opportunity to be asked by the president to take that appointment. So it's good. It's the good thing about up there when we learn. You hear the word conference is an understatement because I don't think we ever seen the outside of a building and the Capitol.
No, it really should be called intelligence updates.
It is a lot of information to bring back, and it benefits us here. You know, we hear some people say, hey, well, how does that benefit us? I'm going to tell you. The update and the things we try to get in legislative that helps law enforcement and helps our citizens here in Iredell, and understanding what the inside direction of, first of all, is what's going to happen with the nomination of Cash Patel with the FBI, Marshal Service. We got to meet, I cannot remember, Orman.
Tom Orman.
We got to sit and talk to Tom Orman, the new border czar, and understand what their directions are outside of what the media is saying, making you believe they are. So we'll hit a little bit of that. As I know you took a lot of notes.
A lot of notes.
A lot of good information.
And that was just from some of the meetings that I got to go to. Most of the time, there took a time in some of those meetings where it's like, all right, y'all got to get out. This is sheriffs only. So y'all got to talk about the real power broker stuff. So that was pretty neat.
And Dow, I want to keep before he gets on the notes. Now, how much of this stuff on the national, as far as asset forfeiture and things that we deal with, especially immigration and working with federal agencies, you know, from us going to the knowledge side of it, we don't want to be on the back. We want to be on the proactive side, I guess, versus the reactive side, even with the federal government.
You know, so under the previous administration, we kind of started to see things change in our world around September or October. And, you know, what I mean by that is you kind of had a feeling of what was going to go on. And, you know, that's just not to your God-fearing, law-abiding citizen that pays attention to that. You know, your cartels at the southern border, your cartels in other places throughout the world, they pay attention to that. And they know that the policies that had a high likelihood of being enacted was going to affect the product for the business that they're in and their bottom line when it comes to profitability.
Well, see, and I'll be a little bit less politically correct, believe it or not. Basically, we've been on this show, and we've been talking about the low price of, we pretty much we base our stuff on basically kilogram of cocaine, meth, whatever. Yeah. We can tell supply and demand. When there's a lot more of it, the price goes down. And we've seen meth tip down below $200 an ounce, which historically has been over $900.
I remember days when it was $1,400 an ounce.
Absolutely, and we have to conduct those. You know, the federal government and the previous administration also, what we used to, and a lot of people don't understand this, I have a hard time going to our board and presenting a budget that involves the purchase undercover drugs. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we're doing it to reduce crimes, and we're doing it to lock drug dealers up. But I have always been of the opinion of we need to use drug dealers' money to build those cases. So when I budget, I will always, or in the past, have always used federal equity sharing money. Well, the previous administration shut that off.
They shut it off. They shut it off last year. That's one of the prohibited items that they added to basically their workbook about what we can use asset forfeiture funds for. And one of the things, really, in my opinion, having done it for as long as I have, taking the ability for a local or a state agency to use asset forfeiture monies returned from a drug investigation back to that department. They said, hey, you can't use that money to supplement your what we would refer to as a buy budget.
And listen, we'll translate it. Basically, they don't want us using drug dealers' money to lock up more people.
100%.
They want us to have to go, me as a sheriff, to go and ask my citizens, hey, will you give us $150,000 in taxes to purchase drugs? Yes, it reduces crime. It makes they don't come in here and commit crimes and break-ins and all that stuff. But we were using the drug dealers' money to offset that.
We were.
And that was one of the previous administration rules. So let's hope that changes. It's only been now for 2 years, I think they've had it.
It came into effect
March 1st, right before budget season.
Yeah,
I remember
it came
that.
into effect then, and it's definitely going to affect this year's budget. It affected last year's a little bit. It's definitely going to affect this year's budget because, like you said,
and we're still not using. I still agree not to use tax, but there's the other revenues that I can use from things. So that's what we're using. But that can only go so far.
Yeah, there's other streams of income that come in that we can kind of
supplement
borrow against in order to do it.
And see, that's when we tap in when we're in DC. And I know Bill's gonna get back to this. A lot of people don't understand. So this is a good platform to talk about this. We get to talk to our legislators, our Senate, and say, listen, here's why we need this. Otherwise, most counties cannot afford to do that if they did not have the other monies.
So we are incredibly lucky because back in the day when you worked over there with us, you remember that it was a certain amount, and now that amount is exponentially more than it was then. Mm-hmm. What we're able to do with that is a direct reflection on something that you talk about a bunch: crime numbers, how much crime has went down. We've argued in the past about.
Well, hey, no, hold on, Dow. Before you can go there, you're being cryptic again. But I can look at that and say we got 3 minutes and 45 seconds for you to explain I told you so.
Okay, what he's talking about is we like to work. We like to make cases. That's what we're paid to do.
That's right.
And when I took over in the position I'm in 2019, we had the discussion about, hey, it might not be the greatest thing in the world to put everybody that we arrest out there.
And we don't put everybody. We put a large percentage.
Or it might not be the greatest thing in the world for us to put
roundups.
Some things that we do out there. Because I was overly concerned that if we're arresting 200 one year, that everyone on surrounding counties and everywhere are like, well, I'm not going up there and do what I was going to do. We just had an incident here not long ago where we were trying to convince someone to come here from somewhere else.
Which sounds bad, but in the course of the thing, you want to come here and do the deal so we could arrest them.
Yes, we wanted them to come here so we could arrest them either then or at some point in time. And they were like, I'm not coming to you. Okay. And literally we were a mile apart. We were in the southern end of the county. We were at the last exit in Iredell. They were at the first exit in Mecklenburg. By the numbers, that's the 30 and the 31. They were not coming to the 31, and we were not going to the 30. So, everybody at the office, we're all mad and upset because of that.
They're fearful to come here.
Yeah, that happening. But in the overall scope of things, when you look at it, that's a good thing that they're not going to come here. It really is. Even though it affects us a little bit as far as the worker bee goes, overall in the scope of things for the citizens, for the people that live here, it's great for them.
And that's right, because we know drugs. We know you hear drugs. We know the nexus to other crimes, violent crimes, break-ins, larcenies, whatever. But when we make them fearful to come here to deal drugs because they know we're aggressive, like I told you back when we was having this argument, make them fearful, use social media, make sure they're going to know where they're at. Well, then they don't come here to break in. They don't do the sale because your dealers are so uncomfortable. They don't trust their customers. And we've seen that even through our roundups. And we've got a roundup going to be announced. And that's just a small part of narcotics. We got a roundup everybody can look
Hopefully
forward to.
the next couple of days.
Hopefully Monday. We'll probably put it out Monday. And I think how many's on it?
There was 30. We're still
people.
actively looking for a few of them, but yeah, there was 30 total.
And that's 30 people that wasn't believers that we're going to be after them.
Yeah, and to kind of maybe do it quickly because I see how much time we've got left.
Oh, we got 30 more minutes after this.
But you guys have other things to talk about.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah,
we're going to hit it.
Kind of got
on that
off a little bit. I'll have to say that everything that we do affects everything here for sure. But we have such a great relationship with the SBI.
We do.
A great relationship with the agents from the Department of Homeland Security. You know a bunch of them. I know a bunch of them. You've worked with them. I'm still currently working with them. It's really a group effort, to affect the things that go on. And they have no control.
Well,
no
real quick,
control.
we do got about 15 seconds. You're talking about Highway Patrol, the SBI, HSI, and all those. They're housed. We're all housed in the same office. We've got a location where we all work together.
100%.
You can walk down the hall and talk to Homeland Security. So, Bill, I don't want you to talk so much next time, but
We'll be back in about 2 seconds,
There
2
you go.
minutes. Joe, I know I don't have my earphones on today, but I've got this speaker over here to my right, and I hear my music. So thank you, brother. I appreciate you for remembering it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again for tuning in to The Good, the Bad, the Guilty today. I swear I had somewhere I was going to go in that last segment, but I believe I got hijacked by my boss and a captain. So I hope that was informational. And we are going to get back around to what you guys were talking about. But Dow, you brought up a great point, and I guess we'll start out with that. When we work these cases, and there again, when the sheriff was up there, then I had the fortune of going, and now you kind of run the unit and supervise it. We get back percentages of the money we seize on the federal level through federal asset forfeiture money.
Correct.
And one point that you made, and I think we do need to let our listeners know, that money comes back through some hard effort, through some hard work by the men and women that we work with, through the U.S. Attorney's Office, through your efforts. I know that we have task force members. Sheriff was forward thinking enough to go ahead and get you guys early on task force level. So your folks in undercover narcotics, our interstate criminal enforcement team.
Well, one thing is we can't just, a little word. We're the only state in the union that does not have bulk cash smuggling laws. So therefore, for us to seize the dope dealer money, we have to adopt them federally. So yes, absolutely.
Thank you for teeing that up. I appreciate it.
That's that's in points. Well, a lot of people, and that's for our legislators in the future. Maybe we can do that.
And speaking of legislators, man, what a segue! It's almost like we know what we're doing.
You would think.
While we were in Washington, we had the ability to go, and from what I remember, the North Carolina contingent of sheriffs were you, Sheriff Sam Page, Sheriff Mike Robertson, Sheriff Willie Rose, Sheriff Scott Hammonds, Sheriff Tyrone Ruffin, and myself. We all went to what they call Hill Day, which is where we actually went to Capitol Hill and all the offices around Capitol Hill speaking to our legislators. We were able to and had a wonderful meeting with Senator Ted Budd. I know that you and Senator Budd are friends on a friendly level as well as a professional level, that you gentlemen go way back. But he took time out of his busy schedule to welcome us in. We sat down, probably had a 20-minute conversation with him. And I know that you and all the other sheriffs that were there basically were like, hey, see what you could do about asset forfeiture money. And he said that he would definitely do that. And then you also spoke about the Fourth Amendment Not for Sale Act, which had some stuff to do with how we gather intelligence and radio signals. And he was very interested in that and said he would look into that. And he also wanted to make sure that federal law enforcement were involved in arresting criminal aliens, making sure that was going. And then we went and spoke to Congressperson Dr. Virginia Fox, and that was just like sitting down with family members. She's such a great lady, very, very friendly, warm, and kind to talk to us.
Point off to her, she's no longer our representative. Still took the time to want to see us
She
while
did.
we was up there.
She did. She took time out of her busy day. And I believe she said, when there's that many sheriffs outside your door, you better just open the door. So she let us
spoke good about William Morgan if he's listening to us. This is a test to see if he's listening to our show.
That's true. That's true.
She did very well
She
with
did
William
say.
Morgan.
But she said what I really appreciated from her was, and when you gentlemen, the sheriffs, were talking to her about asset forfeiture money and trying to get that back, and some of the things, as Dow, you alluded to, some things we can use it for, some things we cannot use it for. The Trump administration has loosened up some of the equipment that sheriff's offices, law enforcement agencies can purchase now, much to our benefit. However, even she reiterated the fact that there was, and I quote, no appetite for anything from China, especially drones. And there is still a provision within the law that says that asset forfeiture money cannot be used to buy Chinese drones. And the problem is, and Sheriff, you and I have had this conversation with our drone pilots at the office. I don't know that there's a lot out there that isn't as good a quality as what they have at this point in time.
I don't think now. I do think this current administration is going to do everything he can to incentivize American technology.
Yep,
I think,
absolutely.
It seems like from what I'm hearing on the news, China stole all of ours. Now it's time to utilize what we have, and
Time
we
to go
definitely
get
have the
ours back.
capability. But right now the technology is so good on that one product. We really do try to make sure we maintain stuff here. And if you talk about the drones, like the news crews, everything you see on TV is made by these companies. And obviously we don't have ours uploaded to where they can monitor. We keep our own stuff, so we're not on the same level. But it is we definitely want American technology, and I think they're going to incentivize American business to do it.
Then we had an occasion to meet a gentleman that I was very impressed with. I had not met the Congressman Brad Knott prior to our meeting, former federal prosecutor, young man from North Carolina. And he had some really good insight speaking with you and Sheriff Rowe, particularly about his thoughts on drugs, drug enforcement, and immigration.
And he was a former U.S. attorney.
U.S. federal prosecutor. And his district wraps around Wake County. So kind of from that northern, almost to the Virginia border and down into around Wake County. And one of the laws that I was very pleased to hear that he is wanting to put in, one of the bills that he's proposing is that if you ever come into the country illegally and you are deported, that if you try to come back into the United States and claim asylum, you will not be able to do so because you came in fraudulently the first time. So he's working on that. Also, he was very, very appreciative and open to wanting to make sure that federal law enforcement agents were notifying local sheriffs specifically before they came in and took any enforcement action as far as maybe arresting criminal fugitives, things like that nature.
And I will say that we don't have a lot of the problems if you see, but I talked to Dow here this week. We actually got information through our national board from the White House about that very subject. Obviously, you have to log in. You can't talk about a lot of the information, but that was one of the information since the first year about federal agencies and certain things that's been alleged nationally over the last 3 to 4 years. So that was a good information.
Then we had kind of a very quick meeting with Senator Tillis. He had some other things to take care of. So basically,
Bill's nice. He basically want to tell us all about things he's done and didn't have a lot of information or didn't have a lot of appetite for ours.
Yeah, exactly. He had better things to do, seemed like. But then we met and finished off the day and ended up having dinner that night with Congressman Pat Harrigan, who represents our district here in Iredell County. We had a great conversation about numerous law enforcement issues. We also talked about the recovery efforts in Western North Carolina, how that affected law enforcement with jails and moving people and things back and forth. So that was a great conversation.
Yeah, good. Went out to eat with us that night. Sort of talked about still up to about 10 o'clock at night, talking about things we can do. Not just, we talk a lot about the federal equity share money. There's a lot of other things. It just takes the burden off the taxpayer.
It does.
That's so. But with that, and then of course, and Bill, I'm sure you're going to hit this, and Dow, I think we're going to get in more of some of the stuff or that.
You talked about meeting with a former either assistant United States attorney or a United States attorney representing a district.
Or assistant.
We look forward. Like I'm at the tail end of my career, but I look forward to having a relationship with the U.S. Attorney's Office like we had 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
That's the only thing. That's me being politically correct. You can phrase it, Sheriff, how you want to phrase it. But I look forward in being able to pick the phone up and call directly to someone and have a relationship like we used to have with a couple of the prosecutors and get something done. Because having that ability, not only does it ease up some of the local stuff that we do, ease up some of the cases on your local prosecutor's office or your district attorney's office, but some of the people that we deal with
need to go.
They need to be made a believer.
They need to be made a believer because, they can do something for us if they will. If a U.S. Attorney's Office will do something for your local law enforcement agency, they can make a difference. I remember back when Andrew Murray
out of Buncombe.
But he was
He's in Charlotte, U.S. Attorney.
He was the district attorney for Mecklenburg County. Then he became the U.S. Attorney for the Western District. When Andrew and his guys came up and met at the office and told us Project Safe Neighborhood, PSN, all the things that they were going to do, 110% they did it. They did it.
Right.
I mean, it was amazing for that period of time that he was there with what we were able to accomplish versus what we have not been able to do
in 4 years
in the most recent past.
You're exactly right. Whenever the U.S. Attorney and them come up here to visit us and say, what do we need? And obviously this email I got Monday, and then you see a lot of this administration, I think DC is very, very, very involved on local because they know we're the eyes and ears.
Absolutely.
It's not by coincidence that I have HSI, SBI, the Secretary of State has an office that we have where we can walk down the hall and share information. And that is such a good thing for us here in Iredell to work cases. But going back to the point, I'm not going to say nothing about Denny King, a U.S. attorney. She picked up the phone, but it's not. They didn't have. I don't know the best way. I guess the past really had an emphasis on more helping the bad guy than they did the good guys. I guess that's the way it is.
Well, and here again, I'll take it a bit further. It wasn't the fact that it was guilt or innocence. It was, well, what are the other things wrapped around this case?
Yeah.
I mean, the guilt and innocence was hands up, hands down. Oh, Joe, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back shortly. Time's up. Where did that section go? Holy cow.
Joe, you bet.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, I so wish you could hear the show in between segments. My goodness.
You
I'm glad we have to ask 12 times.
Yeah, I'm glad some things can't be
You should watch
broadcast,
him
but-
dance.
I didn't dance. I was just stretching.
Yeah, okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today to listen to us here on The Good, the Bad, the Guilty. Hopefully, we're bringing you some pertinent information about law enforcement and some of the different funding mechanisms and some of the things going on with the local and the federal government. But some of the highlights in our last segment, I know we spoke earlier about sheriffs sitting on several of these committees and these boards.
Well, you got to sit there. Hey, give yourself credit.
No. I mean, I was sitting there
Bill got
trying
to
to
sit there the whole time.
Yeah, I was sitting
day in,
there
day out.
taking notes. But some of the things that we went over, and before I get started, thank you, Miss Karen Morris, for saying hello. Appreciate you listening out there. So,
Thanks for watching.
If you have any comments, you hit us up on WSIC News on Facebook, X, and WSIC app, YouTube, and all those other good outlets. But Sheriff, you were talking about the benefits of sitting on the boards, going to these type of meetings, and some of the things I was able to sit in, and then obviously there's some intelligence things that go on where it's just the sheriffs and board members. But we were able to speak with the assistant director of removal operations for Customs and Border Patrol, basically immigration. And he basically said that his section of the federal government has 7,711 personnel in his area, and 5,000 of those are actually enforcement officers. The other 20-some hundred are support personnel. They have 25 offices across the nation and overseas, and his budget is roughly $4.5 billion. That's a B, $billion. And that one of the great things that I heard that day from this presentation was currently there are 10,000. That's 10,000, ladies and gentlemen, federal law enforcement officers on the actual border. Now that's the southern and the northern border. But President Trump, according to this gentleman, gave DEA and ATF agents authority to supplement the Border Patrol and are actively down there assisting those individuals dealing with the immigrants and illegal immigration.
You know, we've been now we've been going there for years that I got to serve on the board, and I see when Leon and I sit side by side, usually the board of directors are close to it, and he'll lean over and show us this, or here's what we're seeing, and I'll never forget about 3 years ago, you're going to see, we're seeing this at the border. You will see it in North Carolina. And sure enough, we did. And the intelligence we get from them and what we're seeing, especially on the cartel side of it, I mean, they're getting shot at, helicopters getting shot at. And
absolutely.
People, you know, I've said a long time ago that we're actually a border state, believe it or not. And Dow and Bill, I don't want to hijack the thing while we're talking about, you see the cartels. Everybody always asks me, do we have cartels? Yeah, absolutely. We have a presence. Do we have a big, but we also we should keep the lights on. I mean, they don't like, we give it a lot of attention and talk about it a lot.
You have cartel drug trafficking organization activity here. Now, without jeopardizing anything that we have done, will do, or are currently doing, you have people that live here, that work here, that travel through here, that have that association and that we are aware of. I mean, we have arrested them, whether it's been through an ACE team arrest, whether it's been through a narcotics investigation, whether it's been a traffic stop on the interstate with the ICE team. You know, those people travel through here, live here, work here, 100% that activity goes on.
You know, and we see it, and I do think, there again, we'll go back to social media and things and being good in the press and Facebook of putting out when we do stop them on the interstate. I mean, we make no secrets. We're going to expose them, and they don't like that. We know a lot of counties surrounding us. That's sort of what they call more home than they do Iredell. We don't see it. But, you know, when we was up there, we asked about the federalization. You know, there's 287G, and that gets an immigration thing. But as far as targeting those career repeat offenders and cartel members, we would love to work with the federal government on that more in specialized units such as our ACE and ICE. So that's something that I'm willing to tell the public here that we are trying to do it. I'm not here to find people at school. That's not happening. And I think I've done a bunch of talks to a lot of our Hispanic and other communities. Tell them, here's the truth. Listen, they're not raids. The press will tell you that they're doing raids across the country. No, these are targeted enforcements of cartel, rapists, child pedophiles. That's what we're doing. And obviously we would love to take that same position, but locals, we cannot arrest for federal immigration issues.
No.
Yet. You know, we're trying to work on that, but we do detainers. We do honor detainers in our jail. So, you know, if you do commit a crime and you are putting, this is anybody you know that may be interested in this, if you do commit a crime, obviously we will do everything we can to issue a detainer, but we're not out actively looking for those not committing crimes.
You know, you and I talked yesterday on the phone, and you made a very valid point from someone that you spoke with. I think it was at a restaurant that had some military experience, that had worked on jet engines, had a 4-year degree, you know, so on and so forth.
Bachelor's degree, former military, and works on jet engines.
From another country, let's caveat that.
And because of, go ahead and you tell the story.
I'm not going to tell the story, but you know, everyone, I would think that, you know, the message that you're given and the things that people need to hear are, if you commit a violent crime, if you commit a drug crime, if you commit a, you know, crime against a person or crime with a firearm or something like that, and you're not supposed to be in this country, I think that's what they're going to look at and target. But I just don't see, if someone is hardworking, a member of the community, contributing to the way things go, that's not, when you talk about targeting enforcement, that's not what's going on.
You're right. And is that illegal? Yes, absolutely. You're in the country.
100%.
It is. And Bill will tell you, that is some specific things we have, because obviously we want what's best here. But they made it clear with the numbers. And before we do it, the press is trying to say that this administration is locking up everybody from kids to preachers. That is
It's not true.
And it's my job or us to bring it back here. And that is not the case.
Correct. In fact, going and you guys, it's almost like you could read my mind in my notes here.
We've been hanging around with you a while.
I know, right? But the gentleman, there again, the assistant director of removal operations, and Dow, that's exactly what the gentleman said. He said basically these are selected target enforcement, focusing on the most heinous and dangerous offenders first. Cartel and drug and gang members are top targets, and they were explicitly clear on that. Right now, he said they have 4.6 million offenders in the country that they have vetted to arrest at this point. He said Tren de Agua, which is a Venezuelan gang, is the absolute tip of the spear, top priority to get out of the country.
And if you're concerned, they're the ones that made national news, taking over the apartment complex.
They basically took over an apartment complex in Aurora, California, in Colorado. But and there again, not only this gentleman, but Tom Homan, who was the border security czar, they said numerous times there will be no major sweeps in the community checking for IDs, checking for papers. These are targeted enforcement. And then he said something that I wasn't really expecting, and I never had really thought about it till he brought it up. He said there are countries that are working with the United States to get illegal immigrants back into the country. That's Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. He said rest of the countries are trying to get cute and play with the United States and make sure that the people that we're sending back who are illegal immigrants with criminal histories or warrants have proper papers, Joe. They got to have proper papers from the country we're sending them back to before they'll accept them back.
I looked at Bill and I said, "What did he say?"
There was a lot of murmuring in that briefing.
Me again. It absolutely makes no sense on some of the regulations, and your regular people wouldn't. Hey, we got one of them.
Oh, we got
a criminal at the door now.
Yeah, there's a criminal at the door right now.
Mr. John Galena checking on us.
There he is. Come on in here, Big John.
John, we were just talking about criminals and people. Nah, just messing with
turning herself in.
He's done run.
Joe has a microphone for you to speak to us.
And y'all
sir.
that don't know, John does allow us to use this studio, and it's absolutely. I do want to make one request, or Bill, you make the request. I don't want to offend the landowner.
Dude, we need some heat. It's cold in here, sir.
Some heat. Well, that's on Joe. They're the ones that got to pay the power bill.
There you go. Hey, thanks.
Hey, I will say this: if you want to get out of jail free card, then just provide a little studio space, and you get out of jail free.
John, we don't tell everybody though. But thank you for having us. We do enjoy it.
And one of the really neat things, and there is a difference. Now, here again, it's not politics, but it is political. Last year, under the Biden administration, there were an average of 11,000 encounters with illegal aliens at the southern border on any given day. Now, it's 11,000 on any given day. On January 31st, because we got this information on February 2nd, on January 31st, there were 546 on the entire southern border.
And not one got away.
Now, I'm just trying to say that, Sheriff, you and I spoke to one of the border Customs and Border Patrol agents a couple years ago when we were in Oklahoma City for that conference, I believe it was. And I asked the question, just kind of, we're standing around in the lobby, and I asked the question. I said, sir, if there was a political mind to do so, how long would it take you to shut down the southern border? The gentleman never batted an eye, looked at us both and said, 3 days. 3 days.
The whole border.
They're getting it done.
The whole border, northern, southern border.
Slap getting it done. So, in just the minute and a half that we have left, I've got way more information. Sheriff, maybe we can come back on this next week.
I still thought we had another 15 minutes yet.
No, Joe's throwing us out. He's giving us the hook.
You need 2 hours.
You know, this is a conversation. I wish, and we're going to get a phone line if I got to give him Bill's cell phone number.
There you go.
Or mine, I don't care. But there's a lot. I get asked this, and we get asked this a lot. You know, our position on this, how does it affect us? So, you know, our job is, one, how we reduce crime, how we take drug dealers' money to offset taxpayer dollars here, and what is the federal government looking at going in the future, and what are we looking at? And I'll be the first for immigration.
Maybe in the minute that we have left, we can tell our listeners that if they have questions, be ready to contact us next week. We'll come back in. Dow, if you're free, you can come back over next week. We'll pick this up where we're leaving off, because we still have a lot of stuff that
And
I
listen,
think the American
and
people
it'll probably
need
be
to
shared a lot
hear.
of places. Hopefully, Firewire and some of those, and WSIC will share. Go in there and leave the comments. We will promise that we'll look at the comments and we'll come back and address the
Well, you're
issue.
talking.
Good, Dow.
You talk about sharing.
Absolutely.
And I just got a text message. So when we were on the way over here, when I left the office, a friend that I grew up with years ago lives down east, just east of Raleigh. They called just kind of see what the weather was like up here because they had got some snow down there. I'm like, hey, I'm going to do the radio show. It's not my favorite thing.
You
but
better
I'm
hurry
go-
up. You got 15
Yeah,
seconds.
but I'm going to do it. So I'm just wanted to let you know that you've got a listener on the east side of Raleigh to this show.
Hey, got
today.
two because I know my daughter's already texted me and said smile more. So,
Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for
Thank
tuning
you,
in
Dow.
today to the Good, the Bad, and the Guilty.
John,
we'll
thank
be back
you.
next week.
Appreciate it.